much. This is breakout 1, best practice in diverting under 18s and solutions. How do we identify and support children before they are criminalised? And how do we help them avoid court and any criminal sanctions? We've got an excellent panel of people. Going to ask them all a question, brief answer, then we'll get into a panel discussion and then questions, as always, from you, either through Slido or from raising your hand. Alison Sabaroche. Children on the periphery of criminal justice system are usually known to a number of agencies. Alison, how can we help them divert children to diversion programs as early as possible?
I think what's been really interesting for me today is hearing from police colleagues about how they are operating or trying to divert. In Hammersmith and Fulham, we do have an out-of-court disposal panel, and we do diversion. There are lots of comments around collection of data around diversion. And actually, most youth justice services will have that data. It's just that we're not required to report at this juncture. We're not required to report to the Youth Justice Board on our data around diversion. But that will be changing coming April 2023, when we will have new key performance indicators, and we will be required, or we will have an indicator around out-of-court disposals, including diversion. Children are with youth justice services for a time-limited period. Community organisations, despite their funding challenges, are most likely to be in the community and know that community well. So in order to have children reach their fullest potential, you need to link them back into their community. Those community partners will be there long after we have gone in terms of those statutory organisations. So that's what's most important. Linking children, diverting them at the earliest opportunity, giving the first responders, i.e. our police colleagues, the tools with which to do that, and linking them into community organisations. Sorry, I've probably gone on a bit.
You have a little bit, but don't worry, it was really interesting and very important. Alison, thank you. Going to ask Bruce Houlder now a question. Bruce is a former barrister of many years, prosecuted many cases at the Old Bailey. He was also a part-time judge, recorder, and Bruce is now involved with fighting knife crime, which is a sort of collaborative venture. And I'm going to come to two words that Alison just used, partnership and collaboration. How can we make those words acquire a measurable meaning, Bruce? Should there be a minimum standard of cooperation in any partnership? Because it seems that those two words are key, according to Alison.
Yes, well, if today's conference has any weakness at all, and I don't think it does have many weaknesses, it's full of wonderful ideas for the future and new collaborative work going on. If it's got one weakness, though, it doesn't involve all of us. We hear the police involved on just about every scheme that we've been discussing today. Whereas, in fact, the responsibility for changing society and improving the lot of young people is down to every single one of us. It's absolutely vital that we do collaborate, we do act as partners, and that partnership should mean something. I have very few partners on my particular website. I've got one more now, which is the Ben Kinsella Trust, because I just want to deal with those people who are going to be genuine partners, not just someone who wants to get their name up there. It's got to mean something. We've got to work together. We've got to share information. If I can't help, I want to turn to one of my other partners and seek help for somebody who was looking for it. That's why we've got more than one organisation on here. I've got Local Village Network, who produce a large directory of organisations helping young people around London. And I know the police work with them, and I know local authorities do as well. And I want to work with them as well. So that's the way we've got to work. We're all responsible in some way for how our young people turn out, and each one of us can help. So that's what I mean by collaboration.
Thank you, Bruce. That's all right. You went on a bit as well, but again, also very interesting. It's fine. It's fine. David Apparicio from the Chrysalis programme, which equips people with essential life skills and helps them move away from offending and reoffending. The question for you, David, how to get the balance right between supporting young people to steer clear of crime, but ensuring that such interventions aren't seen as a soft touch?
I should answer that initially with saying that I am a magistrate, and I had got bored of seeing the same people, especially young people in front of me in court, over and over again. And when they come into court, they come in smiling. It's like a day out for some of them. And they come in smiling, they're quite happy, and you want to swear at them. You want to have a go at them and say, do you understand you're starting down a path that you can't come back from? So I'm just taking a sideways go at this, because what I realised was many individuals are lacking in those essential life skills. They're lacking in all those tools. And if we can give them those tools, then they can make better choices that they moving forward. When we talk about collaboration, I liken us all together as a fantastic relay team. Now, I'm really good at finishing. You might be good at starting. You're good at the bends. You know what? Pass the bloody baton. Right? Stop hanging on to the baton because there may be more funding for you. And stick in your lane and do what you're good at. So don't keep spreading it. So build bigger partnerships and collaborations so that we can work better together.
Didn't quite answer my question, so I'm going to ask it again. If you don't
Okay.
mind. So because it seems that there is a tension, isn't there?
Yes.
When we deal with young people.
Yeah.
And we can all agree, at the lower end of offending, the really, shoplifting offence, first-time offender, really diversion scheme, keep them away from the courts and criminal record. Obviously, no one's going to argue with that, probably, I don't think. Yeah. And then right at the top tier of offender, you've got to go to court if you've killed someone. But there is a band in the middle that's quite difficult to gauge, and you're both sentences, and you will appreciate that. And the public are watching, and the media reaction when a young person doesn't get a custodial sentence for something that people think are quite serious can be, quite vicious. So how do you strike the balance? You're in an organisation that helps young people to, as you say, to get those skills so they can go on the right path. But how do you get that? When does the support stop and the punishment start? Do they have to go together?
As a magistrate, you are limited by your sentencing guidelines. You can't go outside that. Judges have greater capacity to do that. We have to follow those guidelines. But still, there's an opportunity to look at what is the real problem here. And sometimes, as a magistrate, I get really frustrated because I know there's a housing problem. There's a family problem going on. There's an educational program, there's a mental health problem, there's a drug problem. But as a magistrate, I can do nothing about those. I love it that some people have been talking about the collaborative groups that they've been working with where they have all the services integrated. I would love it that, not just having probation in court with me every day, I had a housing officer and I had all the other departments in court with me today, and I could say, right, go and sit down with that person, right, and then come back and tell us what our intervention is. So for me, that's where we're actually going wrong. We're not able to make a decision in court. We can only do it by the book. The book says they've done that, so you have to do that. And that's it. We have no opportunity to work with all the fantastic agencies that we have around us in a proactive way in court on the day.
But there comes a point where some offending has to be punished, doesn't it?
It has to be punished, but what we also need to do is we need to educate society and the public and the media as the purpose of sentencing.
Alison, you work with young people all the time in Hammersmith and Fulham. I know that your service is extremely highly regarded. What has been the key to the success of your youth service when, sadly, the adult probation service is a failure in your area, I have to say, and as assessed by the probation inspector? Why is there such a marked difference between the great success you're having and they're not?
I think resources. I think I feel for my probation colleagues in, I can't remember the acronym, but it's Hammersmith and Fulham, Kensington and Chelsea and Westminster. I can't remember their acronym, but they cover the 3 boroughs. I feel for my colleagues in probation. They're significantly under-resourced. Probation colleagues are working with much larger numbers. And
what are the numbers that you're working with?
So in Hammersmith and Fulham, the current number of children and young people that we're working with in the Youth Justice Service is approximately 31 children. So you're talking a significant reduction from 2019, where we were probably working over the year in excess of 100 children. So we've significantly numbers have reduced. But we call that almost like the bottom of the soup. So the children that we are getting are the children that are the most complex children, the children that are most likely to have multiple needs. They're most likely to have additional learning needs. They're most likely to have been known to our colleagues in wider social care. So they're children with really, really complex needs. So those are the children that we're most likely to see showing up.
Bruce, we talk a lot about the media and how they are so important. Yes, of course we are, with how the world views crime and its systems. How can we influence the media around this? It's quite a big question. Around this issue, I think.
Yeah, I think it is a slow process. I don't know to what extent the media have been welcomed in here, but it is exposure to these kinds of these pieces of evidence, I think, which will eventually make its mark upon the media. And there are serious journalists, such as you always have been, Danny, that will actually look at the reports that are produced by Cambridge, for example, as we've been hearing today, and extract the lessons from those. And we had some very good lessons today about the value of diversion in saving people's lives, saving the cost to the exchequer, and saving the criminal justice system. Everything you do in that respect is going to save the economy of this country. There's absolutely no doubt about it. If you put a cost against benefit and all the things that we've measured here, it's a no-brainer to do this that we're discussing today. No-brainer to go down this diversion route. And I think if you can sell that to the press, and it shouldn't be difficult, it really, with the evidence that we've got now, then I think people's views will change. There's a phrase that always gets used by politicians at every election: tough on crime, tough on the causes of crime. The thing about using that word cause is that it just gives rise to abstract concepts like, what's the cause of crime? Well, it's social deprivation. Well, that's an abstract idea. Of course, it's right, but it fails to address the responsibility. Addressing the reason for crime is much more important than addressing the cause for crime. The reason for crime is failure. Failure of society, failure to act, failure to do something about it, not just to identify, oh, well, it's social deprivation. It's the same places 50 years ago that were socially deprived in London that are socially deprived today. Nothing has been done about the reason. Everything has been done to name the cause, but no solutions.
Look, that's a really good note to end on. I'm very aware that we're running a bit behind time, so please would you thank our fantastic panel. Thank you.